Valued members and honored guests, welcome to our panel session, Scaling Hispanic Business Enterprises, Community Partners Unlocking Access to Capital Opportunities. Please welcome today's moderator, the chair of the USHCC Educational Fund and managing partner co-founder of Altura Capital and Small Business Community, Mónica Mantilla.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ramiro, Alice, Jackie, Nelson, and all the USHCC team for a great event. We are so grateful to President Biden, Vice President Harris, Secretary Yellen, Secretary Mayorkas, Administrator Guzman, Chairwoman Velasquez, Chairwoman Waters, Chairman Cardin, Chairman Reese, Senator Padilla, Senator Cortez, and all esteemed members of Congress for your participation in our event and your leadership in rebuilding our country and our economy, and for the seat at the table you have committed for the Hispanic community. Let's kick off the panel. I will share some opening remarks and then introduce our esteemed panelists. As your chair of the USHCC Educational Fund, with our board and the USHCC board and staff, we are working hard to fulfill our vision to create a bold blueprint for massive capacity building to serve the needs of Hispanic businesses. We look forward to continuing to work very closely with federal and corporate partners to achieve these goals. I've always believed that the sources of our solutions must come from us, by us, and with us. It was back in 2005 when my friend Raul Izaguirre asked me to speak at Congress about Hispanics in financial services that I first thought of an important bifurcation: Latinos as recipients of financial services and Latinos as providers of financial services. We must be part of the solution provider and architectural conversation as much as we are recipients. In August 2020, my friend and advisor, Gabrielle Gay, co-authored an article published by the Harvard Business Review titled Transformative Philanthropy at a Time of Crisis. She discusses the Giving Pledge, conceived in the immediate aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. They committed to giving at least half of their net worth to philanthropic causes and invited others to do the same. As of the article publication date, 2009 signatories from 22 countries had pledged over $500 billion. $500 billion is also the estimated size of market potential that resides in 28 of the largest corporations in America if the power of minority businesses and business leaders were to be fully harnessed. The authors present the critical importance of market-creating innovation. Innovations that transform complex and expensive market solutions into simpler and more affordable ones, making them accessible to a wider segment of the population. Market-creating innovations time and again have created widespread growth and prosperity for many, whether in ascending markets or in underserved communities in high-income countries like ours. The article explains how, while our current crisis is fundamentally different from most in the past, in this regard, it is likely to be similar: a potential window for risk-tolerant, philanthropically motivated investors to provide critical capital to enterprises and organizations driving markets, creating innovation. And in that regard, there could be no better way for the Giving Pledge to extend and expand its legacy than for it to inspire action at scale to support the next generation of market-creating Hispanic innovators, from technology to science to financial services to value-added products. And as one of the very few Latinas in private equity and as an entrepreneur in the hard-to-crack financial services arena, as an impact fund leader that works closely with institutional investors and corporations, I have seen firsthand the power of being architects of our own financial solutions. Our commitment through our funds to invest more than 51% of our capital in low and moderate income communities and with diverse business owners, a commitment we have fulfilled and exceeded, gives us tremendous hope for the future. Capital management is and should be one of the most formidable instruments of social equity. We are still behind, right? Yet the potential of our community to close this 1.3 billion plus gap when it comes to parity of capital is probably one of the most encouraging human potential development challenges of our time. And this, in my estimation, can only be achieved with significant public-private partnerships. Throughout the conference, it's been highlighted how Latinos have been incredibly important actors of the US economy, how growth has come from us, how essential services have been provided by us, yet how disproportionately we have been affected, and how our lack of solid financial fabric had our business owners suffer unequal access to PPP and other financial and technical assistance. USHCC has issued a policy paper available on our ushcclegislative.com website. Click on the resources at the top under additional resources, and you'll see the capital agenda. I posted it on my Twitter at Altura Cap earlier today, and it's an important guide for all key stakeholders. We invite everyone to read it and to be part of that solution. Government agencies, institutional investors, corporations, foundations, and family offices all have an important role to play. And we think that it can happen. And we thank you for your championship to help us build our own financial capacity to be architects of our own solutions. We hope that a few CEOs in corporate America and a few giving pledge signatories become champions of this agenda and help us work with the federal agencies hand by hand to roll out massive private public initiatives to serve the financial needs of our communities. I'm so proud today to introduce three esteemed panelists that will share with us very valuable perspectives when it comes to the role of three key stakeholders in the capital conversation: the Federal Reserve as an economic policy driver and bank regulator, the SBA with all its amazing power to help our business owners, including financial services providers, and corporations leaders such as Google. We thank you all for your leadership, the wonderful work that you do, and the work ahead as we rebuild our community and our country. Your detailed and accomplished bios are all on the conference website. We invite you all to review, and I'm proud to call you all my friends. Thank you for being with us today. Ana Alvarez Boyd is the Senior Associate Director in the Division of Consumer and Community Affairs, responsible for directing the board's community development programs, consumer and community development research, and identifying emerging issues that inform policy. In her role, she manages engagement with the Board Community Advisory Council, oversight of the Federal Reserve's community development programs, and the creation of research and analytics that inform the Federal Reserve policymakers. Ana has diverse experience in government, the corporate and nonprofit sectors, where she has managed housing and mortgage finance and community development programs at both a national and a regional level. She was before with CHCI, and where she held a position as Director, Community and Multicultural Leading at Fannie Mae. And she has extensive regulatory experience, served also as Deputy Comptroller for Community Affairs at the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. And during her tenure, she founded HOLA, the Hispanic Organization for Leadership Advancement and Employee Networking Group that helped to increase the recruitment and retention of Hispanics. And Ana is a native of San Francisco, California, and a graduate of San Francisco State University. And she's a graduate of Georgetown University Transformational Leadership Coaching Program. Welcome, Ana. Thank you for being with us today.
Oh, Monica, it's my pleasure.
Thank you, my friend. Also, Mark Madrid, welcome, Mark. He is a presidential appointee for the U.S. Small Business Administration. He leads the Office of Entrepreneurial Development as Associate Administrator. The Office of Entrepreneurial Development is an incredibly powerful division of the SBA that supports more than 1 million small businesses every year through a nationwide network of partners and resources, including the Small Business Development Centers, Women Business Centers, SCORE, Regional Innovation Clusters, Emerging Leaders, Ascent, the SBA Online Learning Center, just a fabulous set of resources and programs. And previously, Mark served as the CEO of the Latino Business Action Network and the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative, which focuses on strengthening America through U.S. Latinx entrepreneurial research and business scaling program at Stanford Graduate School of Business. I have the honor of being on that board, and it was just such a pleasure to work with Mark and his phenomenal drive. Mark served as CEO of the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber before, and prior to serving in his nonprofit executive roles, he also enjoyed a corporate executive banking career in Wall Street in 1995 with JP Morgan. And Mark was also the recipient of the Latino Leaders Maestro Award in the category of leadership for his lifetime accomplishments and a distinguished influencer in promoting Latinx entrepreneurship, and for his legacy as advisor, entrepreneur, diversity business promoter, all which placed him as one of the most passionate leaders in the United States. And he's also a Jefferson Award recipient and an honorary colonel of the U.S. Army. And Mark dedicates his work today to his father, Marcos Madrid, a self-made welding small business owner who died of COVID-19 in 2020. Rest in peace, Mark, and thank you for joining us today, my friend. And last, but definitely not least, Dr. Esteban Lopez. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Lopez. It's such a pleasure to have you. Dr. Lopez currently serves as Healthcare and Life Sciences Market Lead for the Americas at Google Cloud, with multinational executive responsibility for strategy through leadership and solutions development focused on the markets of both North America and Latin America. He previously served as Chief Medical Officer for Clinical Strategy and Innovation for Healthcare Services Corporation, which is the fourth largest health insurer in the United States and the nation's largest member-owned health insurance company. And prior to this position, he was president of the Southwest Texas region for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, as well as Chief Medical Officer, where he had oversight responsibility for sales, network, medical, and community affairs for a 1.8 million member business. And at Google, he helps healthcare companies find tangible clinical and business solutions through digital transformation, delivering on Alphabet's promise to organize the world's data. And Dr. Lopez is also a former chairman of the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and sits on the board of directors of Addus Home Care. And he's a Bachelor of Arts degree in biology from the University of California, an MD from Michigan State University, and an MBA of the University of Texas. He's a dual board certified in both internal medicine and pediatrics, and continues to practice medicine in the company he founded, Hopscotch Health. Welcome, Dr. Esteban. All of your resumes are truly amazing, and we're incredibly honored to have you here today. And we're going to kick it off for questions and begin with Ana. And again, thanking you for joining us and for the wonderful work you do at the Federal Reserve, Ana. Can you please talk about where things stand right now with CRA modernization, such an important topic, and what are the chances for an interagency regulation? What stage are you in now, and what are you seeing in the comments so far? And Ana, again, thank you for joining us, and so happy to have you share with us, what's going on with CRA.
Thank you, Monica. This is, really does my heart good to be in a room with other distinguished Latinos. It's not very often that I get the chance to do that, to be in a room with people who are also sort of pulling for our community together all at once. This is really a time of rethinking and innovation. And I wanted to give a shout out to the paper that you have pulled together, the Hispanic Business Community paper, your manifesto. It is just exactly the kind of pathway for the future that is so important, right? Having a seat at the table for Hispanic business is the call to action that we need in this moment. And I know at the Federal Reserve, we have been incredibly careful about reaching out to every single part of the community that we possibly could. We've just come off of 51 listening sessions across the country. to hear from every aspect of the community as we think about modernization. So again, this notion of how do we reinvent? How do we think about the future? How do we carefully rebuild from the moment that we're facing right now? So to your question about the CRA modernization, I know it's the question on everyone's mind. Will we be able to achieve a interagency process? And I have a lot of good news to share with you in that regard. First of all, you've heard both Chair Powell and Lael Brainerd say several times that our work is to think comprehensively about CRA modernization, and our objective is to get this right and provide a foundation for the banking regulators to develop a consistent approach. I'm happy to say that all of the banking regulators are reviewing 600 comments that have come in. And I've been at this game for many, many years, and sometimes you get comments that are, you know, form letters and campaigns of sorts. This time, the comments have really been, you know, carefully considered, offering innovative ideas, really giving us ideas for change, and leaning into the focus of the CRA. And again, all of the agencies have the benefit of those comments. And our intention is still that we would be able to achieve a combined approach to the Community Reinvestment Act. We gave more time for review of the ideas that we put out in the public with our advance notice of proposed rulemaking. I think then certainly in my career than I've ever seen. It was a 120-day comment period, which is quite unusual. And again, it's really paid off in being able to see comments that were rich, thoughtful, and that are being shared across all the regulators. So I think that is very, very good news.
That is wonderful, Anna. It's really great to hear that. So, and we'll have more questions for Anna as we go deeper into CRA reform, which is, you know, as we share in the policy paper, such an important part of what this new architecture can and should be. I'm going to jump to Mark, and after congratulating him in his recent appointment. We're so excited for you, Mark, and we know how you're going to change the world inside the SBA with such a wonderful leadership with Administrator Guzman and Vivi Hidalgo and all the wonderful team that is coming in. But please share with us, how is the SBA doing right now? And what message do you have for our HBEs that are with us today?
Monica, muchas gracias. It's great to be with familia. I think this is my 11th Ledge Summit from the USHCC in a row. It's just an honor to be here with family. That is the bottom line. And first and foremost, congratulations to the USHCC team and board for a wonderful event. You all probably heard President Biden yesterday and Vice President Harris earlier. And I just couldn't be more energized. I hope you can see it in my eyes and feel it from my heart to be in the position that we're in today. And as well, I can't think of a better boss than Administrator Guzman, who you heard from yesterday. It's such an honor to be at the SBA during this inflection point. I'd like to share with you all that in addition to Administrator Guzman, Latina, that there are 4 of us leading major departments at the SBA, Latino and Latina. So to my colleagues out there, Bibi, Cynthia, Elias, and James, it's just an honor to work with you. What's happening in the SBA? Well, it's about solutions and not talk. And it's not even the first 100 days of the Biden administration. And you can see that we are committed to delivering equitable relief because it's about leveling the playing field to hard-hit small businesses so that they can retain, all of you, retain the workers, safely reopen and deliver essential goods like you have done before. So what am I talking about? You've seen enhancements with PPP, with the EIDL loan. You're seeing with the American Rescue Plan signed into law, shuttered venues execution, and the restaurant revitalization and fund and grant. Also under my auspices in the Office of Entrepreneurial Development, you're going to see a community navigator pilot. All that means is that we are trying very, very hard to meet you there on the ground, because I've always said It's not about an air war, meaning you're disconnected from the businesses. All of you that are out there right now, thank you for your persistence of getting through this period. And it's not over, right? But we are getting there with the vaccination policy, folks being vaccinated, providing more global direction and federal direction on reopening, and help is here. That's the bottom line. So I look forward to talking about our vision, not only for the present, but for the future. And once again, it's a delight to be with you all today and to be representing the United States Small Business Administration.
Thank you, Mark. We are excited about your work there. And as you know, we are here to work alongside you. And I want to now pass it on to Dr. Lopez and ask you about Google's commitment to increasing supplier diversity. I know that it's been an important area of evolution, and we'd love to hear your thoughts, Dr. Esteban. And again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, Monica, gracias. Thank you to you and to the panelists. To be on a panel with Ana and Mark is amazing. And a huge fan of the USHCC from my days as chairman of the Hispanic Chamber here in San Antonio. And obviously Hispanic business is near and dear to my heart as someone who's been in the chamber world for a while. But I'm lucky to be here representing Google and our commitment to supplier diversity. The USHCC has worked closely with Google for many, many years to advise and to support our efforts around diverse-owned businesses or businesses owned by people of color. And a key milestone in this work was last year's announcement that the beginning of this year, 2021, we were going to spend a minimum of $1 billion every year in procurement from diverse-owned businesses. We rely on thousands of suppliers to help run our business. We have over 100,000 employees. So we need marketing agencies, construction professionals, professional services, and this commitment will bring a diverse set of suppliers, and more importantly, creates sustained economic impact for those suppliers in years to come. We also announced just last week that Google plans to invest more than $7 billion in offices and data centers in the US and create more than 10,000 new jobs. This announcement follows up on the racial equity commitments that we made last year that emphasize our expansions in cities that are desirable for people from underrepresented groups like people of color. And we want to make sure that we're bringing more jobs to those communities and more good paying jobs.
That is wonderful to hear. Thank you, Dr. Esteban. And I know we're going to go back to you with a few questions to go deeper into that Google commitment, which I believe is a wonderful example, right, for other corporations to emulate and follow. So let's go back to Ana. Ana, can you talk about the Fed's thinking on how to provide additional support for small businesses through CRA, including minority-owned businesses? What's your thinking on reaching underserved communities?
Yes, absolutely. I can talk about the kinds of questions that that we put out in the public in our advance notice of proposed rulemaking. And just for the audience to be clear about the process, the advance notice of proposed rulemaking is a series of questions posed for policy consideration. Here's where we are not really even what we're thinking, where we're thinking of going, but here's ideas for how to think about the policy in the future. We then collect an enormous amount of feedback and integrate that feedback and send out a notice of proposed rule. So a final rule that then has another public comment period. So all of that is to say that this is a really careful process, right? We're talking about billions of dollars of commitment to communities across the country, and getting this right is extremely important to us and to the whole country. So it's a very, very careful process. So here's what we are thinking. The advance notice of proposed rulemaking asked on feedback on ways to foster greater financial inclusion, including providing special provisions for minority deposit institutions, women in financial institutions, low-income credit unions, and community development financial institutions. We also asked about broadening consideration for retail activities in Indian country, both inside and outside of a bank's assessment area. Again, these have been areas that have often been overlooked because they weren't in anybody's assessment area. Designating certain activities in impactful and responsive as impactful and responsive. So activities such as very small businesses and minority owned small businesses. So how to do that is what ends up will come out in the details and how we integrate the comments that we've received. One of the things about the Community Reinvestment Act is that it's always been grounded in the fences, right? The designation of census and metropolitan statistical areas, et cetera. If we can think differently about that as we integrate the feedback that we've received, it would be a way to reach perhaps communities that have been caught up in larger sorts of assessment areas in the past. The assessment area question, of course, is really critical to this. We also sought feedback on expanding CRA consideration of designated need areas. So should we think of the colonias, for example, as an area of designated special need? Should we think about areas that have low levels of home mortgage lending or small business loans as areas of designated special needs, right? That really changes the playing field, right? If we do something along those lines in how banks might see their investments, might see their lending opportunities in a more close-up way of looking at the community. And then I would be remiss if I didn't point out right now that Treasury is implementing a program, $9 billion in community development financial institution and minority deposit institution investment through the Emergency Capital Investment Program. This is a program that the application period is open right now. If there are small businesses out there listening to this, please go to Treasury's website to look at this program. This is an incredible opportunity to expand business, to strengthen minority-owned banks. The program will ultimately invest $9 billion in these institutions. So again, the moment is now. This is a program that is meant to strengthen and revive the institutions that have been lost or considered crippled during this period of time. And I'm sure, Mark, that we'll be working with you both through the Fed and through Treasury to really be reaching the right businesses, right, and those that may not have the opportunity otherwise.
Yes, wonderful. Powerful solutions, both the CRA enhancements and the Treasury programs, Anna. I do believe that they're going to channel billions of dollars into our community, and it's upon us to really use them, right, and really be part of that development and design and be part of that execution. So wonderful. Thank you for those great updates. I'm going to go back to Mark and ask Mark a question related, right, and related to racial equity through economic empowerment in America and the disproportionate challenges of Hispanic businesses to access capital and strategic resources to start or scale their businesses. How is the SBA meeting the needs of Hispanic businesses during a pandemic?
Well, Anna, just thank you for those solutions that you brought to the table. I look forward to that. I also feel, as I'm looking at this window, how honored I am to be with this panel, with Esteban, with you, Anna, and Monica. I don't know how many times we've said be architects of our own solutions. If we had a quarter every time we said that with each other at 5 a.m. or midnight, then we'd be very, very wealthy. And so I want to speak to your hearts, business owners out there, because this is, after all, your conference, right? And so it's important for us to always take segmentation in mind, that we're not a catch-all, just like we're not a monolith, just like it is with the demographic. We have we're in our own industries, we're in different geographies, we have different number of employees, we're in different stages of our growth, we're in different stages of tech enablement, we're in different stages of having relationships with capital providers. Are we bankable, et cetera, et cetera? So these are the questions that keep us up at night at the SBA in terms of what can we do better? And I can't think of a more demonstrative action than we've had even yesterday when President Biden signed the PPP Extension Act that gives you until May 31st. That is a solid endeavor. And I'll bring it back to something that's very real. To those that are L-band strong out there, this is all about you. It's because when we went through the first draw of PPP when I was at L-band, we understood something. It was about dialed up empathy for those on the ground, meaning the business owners themselves. Heck, they're trying to figure out if they're going to stay open, if they're going to pivot. They're running a virtual independent school district. They're maybe taking care of their parents like I was. Who knows what they were going through? So in the pivot to a remote atmosphere, we had to consider repeat messaging and really bring it down to digestible terms that they could understand and act upon quickly, not a 36-page memo, to break it down for them. What changed between that memo 4 hours ago and the one just now? And it was not referred to this website or go here. It was directional. And so we want to bring that institutional type of approach to what we're doing today. Because let's break it down in terms of where we are with some business owners. I'm talking to you because it took me a while too. And that's because I have a banking background. But there was the PPP. And there's a difference between the draw in 2020 and 2021. There was the EIDL advance, which is a grant, and the EIDL loan. And sometimes we got all those confused. And in terms of the EIDL loan, talk about some working capital if you qualify. We're talking 30-year amortization, a very low percentage rate in the 3s most usually. And good news, under this administration, we have officially raised the cap of that product from $150,000 to $500,000. That was a big, big effort here. But it's not stopping there. To our Latino and Latina entrepreneurs that own restaurants, we know what a travesty this has been for you. So its restaurant revitalization fund and grant is literally coming in the next few weeks, and those that operate shuttered venues as well. But going back to the segmentation, I'm glad my dear friend and colleague, Bibi Hidalgo, was here. She's in the unit called Government Contracting and Business Development. I'm saying that because you can rest assured that we're not operating in silos. So it's important for this Office of Entrepreneurial Development to work hand in hand with what we call GCBD. And by the way, this Office of Entrepreneurial Development in of itself, with our resource partners that you mentioned, 62 SBDC lead centers, over 900 service centers, 135 women's business centers, over 300 SCORE chapters with over 10,000 SCORE volunteers. My goodness, we lean into them as much as possible. And on the other side, what we call the field operations, which is the SBA district officers, we're working hand in hand to do some more communication. And that includes the Office of Capital Access and the Office of Disaster assistance. So we're all going to work together. We're going to keep this momentum going. But an eye on segmentation. Also, when it comes to architects of our own solutions, those minority-owned and Latino and Latina-owned CDFIs and MDIs and what you're talking about in that manifesto is going to be immensely important to think to the future so we can handle the next pandemic.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you for those wonderful remarks, Mark. And I know that we will be working together, right, and collaborating. So all of the phenomenal resources that the SBA has can be put every day more and more into the hands of our business owners, and that more financial institutions that are diverse owned can also have an ability to be a partner with the SBA in rolling them out. I want to go back to Esteban and ask you about the role that you believe your company, Google, can play with regard to access to capital. And I know you guys have been working on some programs there. Tell us, Esteban, please, more about that role.
Yeah, you or the audience may be asking themselves, why is there a doctor from Google talking about access to capital? And what I've always said when I was chairman of the Hispanic Chamber is that healthy businesses mean healthy communities. And so We know that the community health is also a leading economic indicator. So they really go hand in glove. So I love talking about business and access to capital, because I know that really contributes to health, which is my vocation as a physician. But I'm also proud that Google has made a very strong commitment and put a flag in the ground to say this is what our position is with regards to access to capital, and we're putting our money where our mouth is. So last March, Google established an investment fund, and it's called the Grow with Google Small Business Fund. And that supports non-governmental organizations and financial institutions which provide access to capital to small businesses all around the world, because we're a global company. But in the US alone, we've made over $180 million in low interest loans and Google.org grants. Google.org is our community investment branch of our company. And we made that available to small businesses in the US also through the fund that I mentioned, the Grow with Google Small Business Fund, and our partnership with Opportunity Finance Network. To date, Opportunity Finance Network has helped us provide low interest loans and Google.org grants to over 30 community development financial institutions, or CDFIs, as you well know them, all across the country. These institutions in turn finance hundreds, if not thousands, of small businesses, which are often overlooked by traditional lenders, which include many of our Latino-run small businesses. And so we've worked hand in glove with Opportunity Finance Network to really create a holistic program that includes low interest loans, funding for cash grants, ad grants, digital skills training through Grow with Google, because as Mark mentioned, tech enablement is super important. You can't function in today's business world if you're not tech savvy. So we're very excited about that commitment that we have as a company, and we invite other corporations to do the same.
Esteban, that is so interesting. And I want to connect your very valuable points with what Mark was sharing in terms of how important it is to segment our markets, right? Because on the one hand, we might have very early stage businesses. On the other hand, we might have multi-billion-dollar businesses and different industries, different structures, and there's going to be capital resources and technical assistance resources that vary depending on what that segmentation is. And I applaud the work that is being done now, supporting CDFIs, supporting MDIs. And I think that as we go up the ladder of the types of businesses that need support, we have to continue to think also, from the very small ones that might need a $5,000 grant or a $10,000 loan to those multi-billion-dollar businesses, or 10 million and above, 50 million and above, that also have an opportunity and should be working with corporate America, that should have, the right financial resources, the right capital, and the right strategic support to be able to grow. So what a complex and, set of solutions, right, that we have, because and I remember one of the efforts that we did, that Mark was part of that event at the Aspen Institute, is actually addressing those complexities and thinking about who are all those players in what we describe the capital savannah, because each one of them will require a different set of capital solutions, a different set of technical assistance. So thank you, Esteban, Dr. Lopez, for sharing all those great thoughts with us. Want to go back to Ana and ask a little bit about what research has the Fed done related to economic conditions in communities of color, and how has the Fed contributed to insights on small business credit access? And I believe you're in mute. There you go.
Trying not to have all the rustling of papers. So this is our core attribute, right, where the Fed really shines. And so I'm really proud to say that last year we ran the survey of household economics and decision making 3 times. This is the report. You may know it well. When you hear the statistic that families, 40% of families struggle with an emergency of $400 or less. This is the survey that we run at the Fed. Last year we did it 3 times so that we could have a sense of how people were doing as we went along. At the end of 2019, so usually it comes out, usually we run it in the fall, we release it in May. At the end of 2019, 3/4 of adults indicated that they were doing okay financially. That was about 39%. However, of course, 2/3 of Black and Hispanic adults reported that they were doing at least okay financially. Of course, Black and Hispanic adults always end up coming out lower in that range. As we went through last year, we saw that different acts of stimulus were allowing people to say that they were still doing okay financially, although in terms of businesses, we saw a decline, a greater and greater decline in how they were doing. We also run a survey called the Small Business Credit Survey. It's one of the main sources. I see Mark shaking his head. It's one of the main sources of knowing really what is going on directly with businesses. There isn't a lot of good data on directly coming from small businesses. It's really something that we have to address through our government sources and through private sources. Let's think about what we need to know about small businesses. I think that that's really an important call to action for everyone. But the 2020 Small Business Credit Survey found that financial conditions declined sharply, and particularly for those who are people of color. 57% of firms reported that their financial condition was fair or poor. That's, over half the firms that we were surveying through this tool, over half saying that they were fair or poor. We really have a crisis that we need to continue to build and support and nurture these small businesses. So these two tools are really foundational. There's something we make them available to the public immediately, all of the source data. So the 2020, the details of the 2020 Small Business Credit Survey will be coming out soon. But you can find that. We can also do cuts along race and gender that are very, very helpful. There's even one, I think that's on the New York Fed site that looks at Puerto Rico specifically. So we're always keeping in mind what our communities look like and what the details look like as well. So I hope that's helpful. It really is a public utility. You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm so sorry for that. I know USHEC has been a partner in trying to disseminate the survey and make sure that more Hispanic business owners participate. And the same with LBAN, right? Because we've partnered in so many times and looking forward to continuing that partnership with the Federal Reserve. I'm going to jump now to Mark and ask him to please share in the realm of technical assistance solutions, how the SBA is playing a leadership role that will resonate with our Hispanic business community, because we all know, it's that two-piece game, right? It's providing people with the right capital, whether it's debt or equity, but also giving them this support system, right? In order for them to be able to manage their financials adequately, manage their marketing strategy, hire the right people, and really, survive and thrive, right? And so tell us a little bit more about that technical assistance solutions, Mark.
I will, but first and foremost, I got to reinforce Ana's just wonderful remarks on data. Without data, you don't have a force. And I was so fortunate to be part of LBAN, which funded the most comprehensive research in U.S. history on U.S. Latino and Latina entrepreneurs from the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative. I couldn't agree more. USHCC familia, if you're hearing me, please support that survey. We had this year, that survey will have a 10,000 minimum sample size. So it is very, very important. And what a great moment it was for LBAN and the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative to collaborate with the Federal Reserve System in a joint report a couple of years ago. So that's out there, it's current, it's not 7 years old, it's only a couple of years old, and that also will have a lot of reflections. The best way that I can answer your question, Monica, is sometimes we have to bring it down to a testimony. But I was thinking back when the pandemic broke in March of 2020, I had a Latina entrepreneur who is in coffee, but she was tech enabled. I mean, because she's in the Silicon Valley, is where she was based. She was supplying coffee through procurement contracts with high tech firms. When all it broke, the shutdown happened, Maria Palacio said, you know, she called me, Mark, I've lost 90% of my revenue in one day, in 1 week. And so I don't know what I'm going to do. Literally, she said that to me, and she had her probably about 8-month-old daughter right here in the phone. And I heard another phone ringing somewhere. It was probably in her back pocket. It was probably a second phone. All we saw that person do is just be receptive to ideas and to ask for help. So this is a scaled business, you know, over $1 million of annual gross revenue. So my point here is she listened to the team at LBAN, got on those webinars, and she took advantage of everything that she could. Those things I talked about earlier, PPP, idle grant, idle loan, et cetera, et cetera. Once you know it, she just kept asking for help, and there's nothing wrong with that. That shows there's strength and vulnerability. Yeah. But what she was really looking forward to is pivoting from a B2B, because the tech firms were shut down in terms of the remote employees, is what I'm talking about in terms of the cafeterias or coffee, et cetera. She leveraged another Latina entrepreneur, Monica Hernandez, from the same system, LBAN Strong, the skilled graduates of the SLAY Ed program. And with her help, we have a mantra: do business with each other and get business for each other. They completely pivoted from B2B to B2C. And yes, she had visions beyond the idle advance and the PPP, but she knew that was something that give her oxygen. And then she had realms beyond that. In fact, she started marketing and started marketing her procurement and certification, which she had so well done and experienced. Mm-hmm. You know, it was 2.5 months later where she was featured on Good Morning America. And now I believe she's secured a seed round in equity. But it all started with the idle advance, the $2,000 or $3,000, the few thousand with PPP. And now 90% of revenue lost in 1 week. Now she's securing a seed round. So what I'd like to say to all of you is, please get familiar with the SBA, beyond SBA.gov. Please explore. It is a good beast of a website, but we are committed and we stand committed. You heard it from the administrator yesterday. We're committed to tech enablement, not only externally, but internally. We're committed to the future and getting through this pandemic, and then looking beyond to support you. And we have you in mind. You're a priority.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. That is, and we know that is the case. It really is, I think, an amazing new window that I think that there will be transformation in our community in the next 1-2 years, fueled by all the support of federal agencies, regulators, and corporations coming to the table and really helping us harness the power of our community. Esteban, what kinds of programs and resources does Google offer Hispanic-owned businesses to support their growth efforts? I know there's a number of them, and would love to hear a little bit from you about what those programs are.
Well, you know, Mark just mentioned that the SBA is committed to tech enablement, and of course, goes without saying that Google is as well. You know, G stands for Google, but it also stands for ganas. We know that there's lots of ganas in the Latino community, and we're committed to helping Latinos grow. You know, it's been mentioned again on the panel that, you know, people need to ask for help, and we're there to be able to extend that help. The fact of the matter is that our business model, which is an ad-based business model, allows us to really be able to offer free services to our customers. And so services that otherwise people would have to pay for. One of those services is our Grow with Google Digital Coach program. It's designed to provide digital skills training and coaching that help Black and Latinx small businesses grow and thrive. Coaches provide ongoing support, including virtual training in 20 cities across the United States. Cities like Houston, Miami, Austin, the Bay Area, LA, Phoenix, New York, where there's lots of Latinos. And these coaches are diverse small business owners themselves with deep ties into the community. So it's very important that people feel that they can ask questions to people that have experienced the same struggles or challenges that they've experienced. And I don't know about you, I'm a small business entrepreneur myself, and access to capital and starting a business, despite having been an executive for many years, is very different. They're two different animals. And so we understand that, and we want to work with our small and medium-sized businesses to provide free training and allow them to use our free and paid products to launch their businesses at every step of the way. And those may be tailored workshops, one-on-one mentorships. It may be hosting small business group meetups. Y todo en español también. We have this both in English and in Spanish. We have the Grow with Google partner program, so you understand what partners you bring into your business. Grow with Google on Air, so using a digital transformation to be able to empower your business. And then in Spanish, Grow with Google Paso a Paso, On Air in Español. All of these things are available, and we've seen tremendous feedback from our Latino small businesses. 92% of small businesses reported increased confidence and knowledge, and 72% have experienced a positive impact on their business. So we're excited to be able to enable businesses across the United States, and specifically Latino-owned businesses.
Wonderful. Thank you, Esteban. That is very encouraging. And this has been such a rich panel. I cannot thank you enough. All of you bring such expertise, such vision, and such power to everything that you're doing. We cannot thank you enough for being part of this conversation. And I'd like to have closing remarks from each one of you to share, message to our Hispanic business owners, message to the federal agencies, message to the corporations, right? And inviting you to think big, right? We have a community that has so much potential, right? What would be your final remarks of encouragement to invite many of these key stakeholders that can come to the table, that are coming to the table, and that we want to invite to work alongside us to be able to harness the power of the Hispanic community? What would you say to every one of those key stakeholders? Again, beginning with our Hispanic business owners, which are the reason why the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce exists, and all of these key stakeholders, corporations, federal agencies that have the power to help us achieve our potential. So I'm going to start with Ana.
Thank you, Monica. Mark, when you were telling your story about the woman holding her baby and asking for help and navigating all of the programs, you brought to life why we as government servants, why we do this, right? This is what enlightens us, what motivates us, what pushes us forward, is that we care about regular people, everyday people, hardworking people, getting the services and their needs met. And in times of crisis, having good safety nets for them to rely on. So when I heard that story of your friend going through all of this, she had to navigate so much confusion. One of the most important things that we can be doing as federal agencies is to work together, to find a way to help people navigate much more cleanly, much more clearly. We should be working together as closely as we possibly can. I know at the Federal Reserve, we're committed to that. We're working very closely with all of the agencies, really looking forward to the ideal of having one Community Reinvestment Act approach to create the most transparency and clarity for banks in this country as possible. So I would say to all the business owners out there, have faith and know that when we hear stories like that, like Mark's stories, it is what motivates us, what pushes us forward.
Thank you, Ana. Right, beautiful remarks. Now I'm going to pass it on to Mark for your final thoughts and source of inspiration.
Well, absolutely. What an honor to be with you all. And I just want to say I'm proud of you, the Latina business owners who are on here, who will see this recording. We are so proud of you. And you should be proud of yourselves. You know why? It's because you're outpacing all other groups in terms of the percentage growth of business owners over the last 10 years, 34% versus 1%. As Latinos, we are the 8th largest GDP in the world and the fastest growing GDP in the world. So we are creating jobs, we're starting new businesses, we're dominating academia in terms of Latinx. And when it comes to small businesses, you are the job creators, you are the drivers of economic growth, and you are the ones who have pulled us out of hard times in this country. You have pulled us out of the Great Recession. You have pulled us out with weather catastrophes. You have pulled us out after 9/11, and you will pull us out from COVID-19. It's an honor to be here. And as Ana mentioned, we are civil servants. I can't think of something that I'd rather be doing, and it is working around the clock, but I would have it no other way. And I just bring it down to my father because he was driving a Bobcat at age 76, strong macho man, 2 weeks before he went to the hospital for the final time. But he was also selling pipe. And I think, what could have been if there was a succession plan and he had built up a welding empire through franchising, if he would have had access to capital, access to resources, access to services, access to networks, and both debt and or equity instruments. What would be the case now instead of what I'm dealing with handling family affairs? So it's personal and it's professional. And I'm glad to see all of you that are out there by extension watching us because we stand committed to you. Muchas gracias, familia.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, and unleashing the power of our community of human capital potential. Dr. Lopez, your final remarks, closing thoughts.
Well, thank you, Monica, and thank you to our fellow panelists. This has been an amazing, inspiring panel. And on behalf of Google, I want our Hispanic businesses to know that Google is there for you. Consider us part of your familia. We want to be there by your side. We want to be able to support you as your businesses grow. We're invested in your success. And to the stakeholder community, let's band together. I'm a huge believer that in health equity, but from a business perspective, we also have to think about tech equity and making sure that we have equitable access to technology across our Hispanic businesses. And so I'm inspired by what our Hispanic businesses are doing all across the country. And Google is excited to be part of the solution to help grow Hispanic businesses in the United States. So keep up the good work, and thank you to the USHCC, and we stand with you.
Thank you, Dr. Lopez. We really appreciate every one of you and the wonderful work that you do. Thank you for joining us today. And I want to do a final closing remark by celebrating that the Biden-Harris administration is so willing to work with us. And we ask to continue to be invited early in the architecture and to have a seat at that design and implementation table. And we hope that many CEOs in corporate America, many leaders of big foundations in this country, and many Giving Pledge members follow and work with us to harness the power of our community. Thank you to everyone today. We've had a phenomenal USHCC Legislative Summit, and it is my honor with this to now close the panel and close the summit. Thank you to all of you. See you soon.